Well, I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but we once again, could not release an episode, in the weekend. Apologies for that. I was just I've been traveling. In fact, I'm still away from home. But finally, I was like, okay, I have to do this. If I have to get more listeners, and consistency is the key. I have to keep doing this irrespective of what comes my way. So I'm really happy that today I bring you this episode. Thank you for joining the Totally Indian Football Show. I'm your host Siju, and this episode is long due, but I think sometimes when your plans don't work out, but when actually it happens, that's the perfect timing. So I have with me Tanay Apte. You must be knowing him. He's one of those who's trying to revive or get going for football in Pune, and we all know how Pune football is probably not a there is no culture going on there. There's nothing happening there. We've seen the number of clubs come and go. So today we're going to sit down and talk about what is the reason, why is it, where is it now, so all of that. So stay tuned till the end, and if you are listening from Pune, take some cues of how you can involve yourself to making the city a sporting one. Tane, firstly, welcome to the show.
Hi, Siju. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's kickstart with the things that probably delayed this episode recording of the show. What have you been up to, if you can tell listeners?
Yeah, so I think the last time we spoke about having this conversation, I actually got a job offer from the AIFF to work as a media coordinator. And it was mostly for the I League, where I was in the bio bubble for the whole time. And that was some experience. A lot of, networking, a lot of, meeting with the players, living with them day to day, training, but a lot of hard work on the media side, on the social media side, trying to create some content, taking interviews, but also, mentally a very challenging experience. And that got over last month. And I have recently resumed my fight and my work in Pune football again, which I was doing before the AIFF thing came up. So, yeah, and trying to put that experience from these last 6 months into improving things from a promotional and a marketing point of view in Pune football as well.
Well, for someone who is working and probably trying to do the best you can, and you've got an offer from AIF, and that too, it's a bubble. How is that experience? Because it's a common thing that I keep asking people who've worked in a bubble, and it's not easy, right? So how is that like? Because this was also after when we started the bubble, there was an outbreak of cases, and then again, you all were called back. So how is the whole experience? Just being inside, seeing the same faces every day. You can't step out, can't do much probably, and you have to also create content.
Yeah, so as you said, a lot of people might have found it challenging, and so did I. I'm no different from those guys. So when you, first of all, when you just entered, everyone is telling you how it's going to be. You should just try to find some things to, have your downtime now and then, because when you're in a bubble and it's I League games are there every 2 or 3 days, so you don't really have much time to sort of unwind and switch off, because as soon as one match day is over, you need to shift your focus to the next one, because there's always a pre-match media briefing, a pre-match press conference, and you have barely 1 or 2 days to get in some feature-ish content, some interviews. But on the mental side, as you said, you're seeing the same faces every day, eating, hotel food every day. Not really good for your, for your stomach or for your brain. But as I said, you should look at the positive side of things here, and the fact that you're living with the teams and the players. And for someone who just grew up as a football fan, watching football players live on the television or wherever, living and interacting with these guys on a daily basis, trying to sort of see how they got to this point, how they became professionals, what drives them, and what is their motivation, and just spending time with them. It's fun, it's a different experience, and it's a good mix of players in the I League. A lot of local boys from each team, a lot of players from different parts of the country. You have the boys from the northeast, from Manipur, Mizoram. You have the Goans. You have your fellow Mallus from Kerala. It's a good mix, and it's like a proper melting pot. I think it was really an eye-opening experience. I won't say it was really fun and or really bad, but a mix of both, and a lot of things learned from this.
Great, I'm sure, and I'm pretty sure like this, all these learnings would help you now, probably, as you go back and now you're back home, trying to do things, revive there. So let's start with that, right? Pune as a place, like I said, we don't associate Pune with any sport, rather. You know, when you look at it, even from the footballing, especially from the footballing angle, like I initially started with saying that clubs have come and gone. So nobody really digs deep, but you have brought a few points out, whether with the stories that you've shared from the previous, that's not been the spotlight, and also the one that you wrote for Kalpant has been an eye opening. um, and it all boils down to people who are running the whole system, right? This is the state association, or the Pune District Football Association. um, how are things? Okay, you've written this article back in 2021. I'm not assuming that there has been any improvement. It's a short period from that time that you've written and now that we are speaking. But why do you think, like, when you look at Pune, why do you think is there's a problem there? If you probably put aside the association aspect, or is that the major aspect why we don't see Pune and sport go hand in hand?
I would say the association aspect of it is a big one, but as you said, probably not the only one. Since this current body came into power about 15 years ago, and they've been in power ever since. And if you look at it statistically, or even from like an on-ground point of view, Pune doesn't have a football culture per se, where there's crowd for games, and there are pockets in the city which bring out these crowds when there are local tournaments happening, like how you have Kerala Sevens in Malappuram. There was a nine-a-side culture kind of thing, because Pune also has a lack of grounds. It doesn't have a lack of grounds just like that, but those grounds are not really made available to people to play, and they're not accessible to the general public, because most of them are, say, school or college grounds, which are restricted to the use for those students. But culturally speaking, yeah, as I said, there has not been much of any player from Pune who has hit those kind of heights to be considered like an idol, or someone who kids can really like look up to and follow in their footsteps. I would say over the last 15 years we've had less than 10 players who have made it to any sort of national club competition level, like an I League or an ISL. We had Prakash Thorat, a forward who used to play for Pune FC, Air India. We had a Paresh Shivalkar, who used to play for Mumbai FC. And most recently, as I wrote last year, Nikhil Mali, he clicked in the futsal championship. He was, hit the national headlines, and he got his I League move to Aizawl. But these are like, barely you can count these names on the, fingers of your hand. That less. So that is one aspect that there isn't anybody to aspire to, but that is also a byproduct of the system which we have in place here, where the association has been in power for like I think this is their fourth term now, and power left unchecked for that long is not good for any game or any organization for that matter. And there's a lot of structural problems at the root, where we have four divisions here: the super division, the first, the second, and the third. Only the super division games are played for 90 minutes. Anything below that, the first, second, third division, these games are played in a variety of a 20-minute half, a 25, or a 30-minute period. So whenever players go for, say, like trials or something at a state or national level, or a Santosh Trophy level, after 70 minutes they have nothing left in the tank. So this is just one of many these things that I could bring out here. So like if you have any specific these things, I can answer those.
Right now, So now, if we have to go into the specifications, right? Now I was reading one of the articles, one of something that you only shared, which said that a player was sharing, someone who's played back in those days, have said that back in '96 or back in '90s, there was at least something happening where tournaments were happening, more than one or two tournaments happening in a month. But now it's come down to the same amount of tournaments happening in a year, right? So the whole, I mean, situations like, say, association not doing their job is something that we've seen. It's a very common factor, unfortunately, in Indian football. So how do you see, and what, apart from, okay, we do elections, there should be right things, what's the scene currently with the association? Has there been, now that there is some kind of talk, some kind of chatter about the whole mess, has there been any steps towards a change?
I would think not, because most cases changes at the higher level or the national level tend to take a long time to filter down to a state or a district level. I would say that in the past 3 or 4 years, since we've had a breakaway, a breakaway group of teams and players, there has been, I won't say change per se, but a lot of a movement within the football circles in Pune. So I would like to bring to the listeners, a sort of a timeline. In 2018, there was there were five clubs who decided to sort of that they've had enough with the runnings of the body, and they started challenging a lot of their decisions as to why basic facilities and infrastructure and basic footballing things which you see in day-to-day games were not being provided to the teams. And there was actually, it started with an awards function bill which was shared with Hindustan Times Pune, where there was an expense of 6 lakhs for a food bill for an awards night. Now, there are around 120 clubs in Pune, and according to the rule, one representative of each team is supposed to attend this awards function. But even if there were 500 people at that award function, that would still amount to, like a ridiculous per person food bill. So this was questioned, as in, if you spend so much on an awards night, on a food function, why can't you keep basic facilities at a league game in the city where there's no ambulance provided, there's no basic and the behavior of the officials is also not very forthcoming. They're pretty rough with their words, and it's easy for them to bully these teams around. And this culture has, it's sifted through all the teams where people know that something is wrong here, but they're too afraid to speak up, because they always get sanctions, they get show cause notices, and this is not the sort of culture we want in a game like football, or in any sport for that matter. So after these clubs, they decided to take matters into their own hands. They filed a number of cases against the association for mismanagement and for some various things, and they decided to form a separate association to take on the existing body. So by that, this thing, Football Association Pune, was formed to sort of, as a protest against the Pune District Football Association, and to offer a much better alternative than to what is currently there. And a lot of points were made, considering the game time that players get. In a third division game, like the bottommost tier of Pune football, there are around 48 teams divided into, say, 8 groups or so, where like 6 or 7 teams per group. And these are the 5 or 6 games. These are the only 5 or 6 games that these teams get throughout the whole season. If you say you are conducting a league, my minimum expectation is that you at least give 10, 15, 20 games. But 6 games a season is a joke, at any level of any football in any country. So game time was a big issue. As I said earlier, the number of minutes provided in every game. um, and as you mentioned earlier, a lot of clubs have come and gone, so there is no pathway for players to represent their city here. We've had a Pune FC, which was quite successful in their own right until they had to shut down. We had a Bharat FC who ran for a year or so, again shut down. DSK Shivajians came and went, again financial problems. FC Pune City couldn't sustain their club and had to shift to Hyderabad. So the problems are aplenty, but we are yet to find a sustainable solution, and that's what Football Association Pune wants to work towards by righting these wrongs, one small step at a time.
Now, you mentioned this new body that has been formed as a protest. Now, how is that received by the existing, the other association, and also how is it viewed by the AIFF?
So the one positive thing I would say, the change that you asked me about earlier, if anything has changed here, I would say that the presence of a rival body, someone who they feel could, actually do something here and take them out of the equation, has spurred the existing association to, to get on their toes and at least try to conduct tournaments. But they have taken this as a, us against the world kind of a thing, where instead of actually doing something good, they have started sending letters to all the teams and threatening this new association with sanctions, and basically burying them with paperwork legally so that they are not allowed to kickstart their work and allowed to function properly. So in a way, half their work is now being focused towards the new body by not by trying not to let them get a hold of the football in the city. And also they, I think, have started organizing more tournaments. They're trying to do stuff, but from what I'm hearing, it's not really this kind of work and this sort of enthusiasm and all is probably new for them, considering they've been there for so long and they haven't really had any opposition or anyone to challenge their work for such a long time. But with regards to FIFA and AIFF, um, the new association had actually, written to FIFA and written to the PDFA, but in most cases there is never any response from either side when you send them a letter by post or by email. It's just that your association is illegal, you cannot do this and you cannot do that. To UEFA and PDFA, I'll say that this association is not illegal. It's a registered society under the Joint Charity Commissioner of Pune, where the PDFA themselves are registered. So calling it an illegal body and threatening players is probably not the way forward. Football is everyone's game. It doesn't belong to any association or any person for their personal gains. So instead of focusing your energies on telling players not to play in this or that tournament, they should probably, consider cleaning up their own house.
Right. Now, some of the other articles that I was reading, it mentioned that, there are Pune is known widely for the corporate entities that it has. And there should be, they should get involved in terms of supporting some kind of, whether it's through CSR or whatever, but there should be inclusion, you know, corporate entities. How do you look at that?
I think that if that is done in the right way, it could really be a boost to Pune football. But from what we have seen over the years, whenever a corporate entity or does come in, so the club DSK Shivajians, when it was there, it was funded by DSK, who was a real estate mogul here in Pune, and he, with his funds and with his influence, and his actually, he was really interested in developing the game, considering he managed to get a tie up with Liverpool and establish an academy here. So he was made part of the association, and it was his funds that kept them going for a long time before his actual, they fell into trouble and a lot of things happened. But this corporatization gave the PDFA a chance to, try to entice more corporates in. But for them, it has always been a case of how much can we get out of it instead of how much can we put in and improve everything which we have. So that would be an example of how to misuse a corporate funding opportunity which comes their way. But as you said, if it is done the right way, if everything is transparent, and if we get these corporates to sort of engage in Pune football at the grassroots level, developing women's football, and even trying to improve the existing league. I think that can be of a really big help because not just Pune. I think getting funding in football all over India is a big challenge unless there's a proper culture in place, like in a Kerala or a Bengal.
Yeah, now it also puts light upon the fact that aren't they, when you look at Pune, they are not even producing players. There are no players coming in with recent names like Nikhil Mali has hit the headlines. But to look at that in a larger perspective, how would you even have, players coming out from there? Because, like you mentioned, there is no pathway, there are no clubs, or even at the lower level, the academies, the leagues are not happening very often. So, there's definitely talent pool, right? There are talented kids maybe at the school level and at a higher level, but they don't have a definite pathway to continue. So how do you think, with what would be those steps to uh, probably eradicate that aspect, so at least we have some more players coming from Pune, or else this looks like just another, probably they have to leave the city and go elsewhere and try out there.
Correct. So as you mentioned, the pathway is missing big time here because we don't have a club at the national level anymore in the ISL, nor in the I League, nor even in the second division. Because even if you consider qualifying for a second division I League, I don't think any club in Pune would meet the licensing criteria, which and funding and that sort of stuff. Um, the other part of it is that um, the Santosh Trophy could be one part of it where players, at least they have a chance to represent the state, and try to get a government job and secure themselves financially at least, because everyone comes from varying backgrounds. So the thing is that even in a Santosh Trophy, there is some unwritten quota, which when it comes to Maharashtra Santosh Trophy selection, our mutual friend Arka made this point on Twitter, I think a few weeks ago, where he said that at least in the Santosh Trophy, meritocracy can prevail. But I think I would have to disagree with him, at least from a Maharashtra perspective, because from some of the data that I've gone through over the last 10 or 15 years, in the 20 man squad of the Maharashtra Santosh Trophy, there are always 13 to 14 players from Mumbai. There are maybe two or three from Nagpur, and then there is one from Aurangabad, maybe a Nashik, maybe one from a Pune, and one from a Solapur or something like that. So this unwritten quota of the Santosh Trophy is something which is needs to be looked into very soon. Um, they could maybe try to do something what the Ranji Trophy has done by bifurcating Mumbai, Maharashtra separately. That could give much more opportunities for players outside of Mumbai, because Mumbai always dominates the selection quota. And why not? Because Mumbai, with their they have a better, they don't have the best of footballing culture, but they definitely have a better culture than here, which means they are producing much better players. They have a Mumbai City, they have a Kenkre, many other good clubs there. So the Santosh Trophy is one thing, but unless the selection process is changed, unless there is a proper meritorious selection process, and maybe a bifurcation in future, I don't think it's going to benefit Pune football in any way unless these changes are implemented soon. And as you said, when it comes to clubs, um, if there and there is indeed a lot of talent here, which we have seen with our own eyes at every level, at grassroots, at inter school, at club level. These players have a chance to play at the national level, but this lack of a pathway is blocking them. And as you said, a lot of these kids, these players, they have to move out of the city to try and get an opportunity. And not every household or parent or might support that, because if it's a really young kid in school, then there comes a question of the parents having to maybe also move households to another city with the kid, because not every parent might want to send their say a 10-year-old child to a residential academy at that age, just hoping that he could make a professional career out of football. And the kind of talent which we did have, which has made it big in India, had to move out. We have a Mr. Mandar Tamane, completely a Pune guy, but found his success in Bangalore. We have a Mr. Vivek Nagul, former assistant coach of Chennai FC, currently with ARAFC in Gujarat. We have a Nikhil Mali who had to move out, go to Minerva, to Delhi, to Aizawl. This pathway needs to really come fast because this is kind of a footballing brain drain which Pune is facing right now. And one way to write it could really be to get our leagues in order, to get our inter-school tournaments. Everything basically, the structure needs to be in sync for everything to function. The schools need to act maybe as feeder clubs to these clubs in the association, and they need to get regular game time over a period of at least 6 months, if not more, at least 20, 30 competitive games. But as with everywhere else in the country, competitive game time is, I think, a precious resource which not many are getting. So once we change the structure, and this is not something which can be revolutionized, it's not an overnight thing, nor a monthly, nor a 1 year thing. We need slow evolution here, but we need proper people in charge, people who have the game's best interests at heart, and we need to leave all the others out of this.
Right now, well, what now at the lower levels, right? There would be clubs, there would be some potential academies as well. In the existing scenario, do you see anyone that has the potential, to probably next represent Pune at a high level?
Well, I don't have any particular kids to pinpoint from these academies, but over the last 10 years or so, um, Pune, the turf culture in Pune has experienced a big boom. So, ever since the first artificial five-a-side turf called Hotfoot came into the picture, they had three turfs here. Since then, I think there are 70 or 75 turfs in Pune. Pune is not as big as compared to maybe a Mumbai or a Delhi or anywhere else. But having 60, 70, 80 turfs in this city alone, that itself can act as, has acted rather, as a big, it has given a big push to, say, casual amateur level football. And in after that, that also gave rise to a lot of academies where it was easier for coaches and people who ran academies to sort of make one of these turfs their base, because if there are 80 turfs in the city, that means there is one in almost every locality. That means that locality becomes a good catchment area for anyone trying to sort of establish an academy there. And this turf culture has done one thing, which is it has increased the time which people play football, like over 1,000%, I think, from what was there 10 years ago. And this has led to a birth of a lot of academies here. I would still say that they would need more time to, you know, get better, produce more quality players at a regular level. But that also has also to do with the level of coaching which we see here in Pune. We, I think, have a lot of de-licensed coaches now, but at the higher levels, we are still lacking in really, really, like a B license and A license coach here. We have them, sure, but not enough of them. So for someone to make it out of here, someone to make it big, someone to make it professionally, I would say it will still take more time. But I would hope that in the next at least 5 or 8 years, we see at least five more players from Pune getting into, like bigger and better academies which are there currently, like a BFC, who have just launched a soccer school here in one of the grounds in Pune. Maybe a Round Glass, such academies who have a proven track record of promoting their prospects into, reserve or academy or first team football.
Right now, as someone who's from Pune, who knows the scenario there, what is wrong and what needs to be done, if you had to list down, if I had to ask you, list down according to you, of understanding the sport and the people there, the solution towards this, and if there's someone listening to the show who's from Pune, um, how can they contribute towards it?
What I would say is that we need to, all the stakeholders, the administrators, club owners, academies, players themselves, fans, everyone needs to come together. And what the Blue Pilgrims did with the COA, we need to have some sort of a dialogue where everyone needs to pitch in what they feel is wrong and what can be improved upon and what needs to change. My survey, which I conducted last year, was trying to get their view of it, and I got more than 500 responses, which from which I can tell you that people are aware of what is going wrong. Most people are fed up of it, but they are afraid because if they speak out, they know that there will be some backlash from those in power. Because obviously, why would you just want to give up power if you've held it for that long? But I would still say that everyone needs to come together, to have courage, to not be afraid, because the association does not own a sport in this city. Football is, it belongs to all of us, and for that we need to come together, need to put forward all our thoughts, and basically we need to change it from the bottom up, not from the top down, not just by electing some new guy in office who would promise us this and that. We need to change it from the bottom. We need to restructure our school level games, because we still have only knockouts happening like over a period of a month or so during the rains, where kids are not allowed to express they can't express their talent as they should in on muddy pitches and stuff like that. So we need to restructure at each level. We need to restructure at the school level. We need to restructure at the club level. Having a 50 team division with 8 groups and calling it a league is not a solution. That maybe we can divide it into zones, geographical zones, where teams get to play at least 10 or 15 games within their zone and then come together, to play sort of the winners can come together to have like a Champions League kind of thing from all zones to ensure more game time. And we need to ensure that there is meritocracy here, not just because someone's relative and someone in the association needs to fend for their family members, so they just select some guy and send him for Santosh Trophy just to get a state certificate. That needs to stop right now. And we need to have fair elections. We need to have transparency, and we need to work together more than anything, and not just say that, oh, we are in power, this is what will happen, and you cannot have any say in this matter. So I would like request and implore everyone who has anything to do with Pune football to come together and just have your say. Please express yourselves. Don't be afraid of those in power. And of course, we have a new association now who is trying to put things right, trying to right all the wrongs of the past 20 years. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen without the support of the teams and the players. But we can at least start on a new page tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all those who are listening to this, and if you're especially from Pune, do reach out to Tanay or anyone over there. And I'm sure, we also had Darshana, who's one of the upcoming coaches from Pune, who's also trying her best to bring back some kind of sporting culture in the city. So do reach out, connect with these people, and do your bit. That, don't consider yourself, because you're not part of an association or a club or an academy, you equally play an important role in a stakeholder if you're even a fan of the sport. Uh, Tanay, I know we can go on and on about it, and thank you so much. But definitely, we'll continue speaking about it as and when there are developments happening from there, because it is something that we shouldn't be sidelining. Whether things are happening or not happening, we should be able to put it out. So, thank you once again, Tanay, for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Siju, and thank you for having me on and providing me with a platform to tell everyone what it is, how it is down here. And I hope with your support and with this, we can start improving things as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and to quote the player, the Rohit Mali, Nikhil Mali, sorry, who's been now, with his own merit, has earned the spot, but unfortunately, it is not. He had to step out of the city, and he clearly mentions in the article that Tanay has written for Kalpan that the city lacks an organized football culture when it comes to tournaments and giving local players a pathway to making it as a professional. When I tell people that I'm from Pune, they usually club it together with Mumbai or just some place close to it. I want to change that by making it to the top. So we hope that players like Nikhil Mali become an inspiration for many other players, and also for the ones who are in power to do the right things with that power, so that there are more players coming out from the city, and we see fans going out and watching the games. So yeah, I mean, we start with a small step, that is to talk about the issue and address the problem. And definitely thank you once again for people like Tane, and shout out to everyone who's been working towards getting Pune to the map of sport. Thank you once again, Tane, and to all the listeners. Thank you so much for listening and tuning into the Totally Indian Football Show. Please do subscribe and follow to our podcast on all the audio platforms that we are available, and whatever that suits you. Thank you once again. I'm your host, Siju. Thank you.